All right, welcome everyone. Today we're going to go ahead and make some of these Christmas country churches that you see a lot. Um, I'm going to be I've found these from different places, people that I know that are taking down their old fences, replacing them with new ones, and I just felt that these things can be recycled, reused, and made into something fun. So if you can't go out and find these types of things, these old fences, I'm sure you can get yourself some old barn wood from somewhere. You can find pallet wood and age it. There's so many videos on how to do that. But today, that's how we're going to do it. We're going to use some of these fence posts that we've got. It's old cedar. We're just going to go ahead and get started. I'll show you how I do this. I'll try to, if there's a different way of cutting or gluing or putting something together, I'll try to give you as many options as I can so that you'll be able to do this at home as well. Sit back and let's watch and see what we can do together. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to get one nice, clean, straight edge. So we're just going to go in, and measurement isn't all that important. We're just going to take off just a small amount just to get a nice, clean, straight edge. So I'm going to do that with all the boards, and then we'll move on. All right, so I'm going to cut these to length using this cross cut. I like to cut these off because I save this. I'll make baskets and what have you, and that'll be a future video where I'll show you how I make a wooden basket out of these. So let's get these cut. All right, so I'm cutting some of the back portions of the church, but I have a block up over there, so I'm getting exactly 6 inches every time when I cut these. And so let's get going. So if you don't have a table saw, you can certainly use a jigsaw. You can use a miter saw, or you can even use a handsaw if you wanted to cut these pieces to length. A table saw is absolutely not necessary to make all of these cuts. All right, so what I've done is these are cut to 6 inches, and that's how these are going to look in this formation. They're going to get glued in the center. We're going to cut 45s here and here. And then lastly, what I need to do is cut this piece right here, and I'm going to cut that. Like I said, these are 6. I got this one here at about 8, and that's going to be my steeple. So let's go ahead and get those all cut. Here, let's move this so you can see this. So there's the stack of pieces all right here. So now this will go right in here like this. Now we're going to go ahead and cut our angles. So I've got this really cool jig. The plans you can find, it's a micro jig. No, I'm not sponsored by them, but this thing's awesome. This piece right here can be moved along any of the routed out lines that are in there. I did mine, typically they want it on this side, but I made mine for over here just because I was more comfortable with that. The plans actually call for it on this side. You can do it however you want, but I like this. I've got my carpenter square up in here, and I have an exact 45 right here. So that's what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 45s on all those smaller pieces right now. Now you don't need this piece of equipment. You can use a jigsaw, and you can use a miter saw to cut these 45s, whatever you happen to have. All right, so what I've done here, to do the steeples, they're at a steeper angle than 45. And to be honest with you, I don't know what that angle is. It really doesn't matter. This is going to be entirely up to you. The difference with doing these is we're not cutting these to have a full 45 as we did with this. This goes from one side of the board to the other. And that's not what we're doing with the steeples. The steeples have to come from the center and come down this way. So what I've done is I've marked one where the center of that board is, and I put it here, and I found that the center is right about there. So now what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and make a little mark right there. So now I know to put my board right to there, and then I'll flip it, and I can do the other side and get that a nice center with a steeple. So as you can see, we had some pretty cool, and I do like the longer one. You saw that. But now what do we do with these things? They're a little bit different than these. These are exact 45s. Not a whole lot that I want to do with those. However, with these, let's not waste them. Let's put them together, and they become a pine tree that we can now put together, glue, and we have a little pine tree that we can also add to the side of our church. So we'll put the church here, we'll put the steeple here, just like so, and then we can add a little pine tree to the side just by these little cutoffs. Not wasting a whole lot of stuff here. So I took all of the 45s and took them over to my bandsaw and just cut them into more of a tree shape so that I can get some more trees. I even have this kind of a funky looking piece here. Let's take this one here. Kind of funky looking here. But if we put it together, we still get a tree. So I still like this. I'm still going to use up as much of these pieces as I can. Some of these churches could have two pine trees to them. I can put one in the front and the back so that they look kind of cool that way. Meaning that if we have this, I could take a tree and I can have it coming from behind like so on one side, and then it can be on the front on the other side, and that way I don't need to put a base down here, and it'll stand on its own this way. It's going to stand just fine the way it is here once I get the whole thing put together like that, but having this back here, it's going to give it more of a three-dimensional, which it already is three-dimensional, but it's going to just give it a really cool look, I think, by having these trees on them like so. All right, so let's go ahead now. The next stage on this is to sand all of these pieces and put them together. All right, here we go with the most fun you can ever have in woodworking, and that is sanding. You've got so many different ways to sand these things. You've got, of course, the orbital sander that most people are familiar with, and I do have one of those, but I let my son borrow it, and he hasn't brought it back yet. So I do have this. This is a pretty old, just a vibrating sander. I will use that for these. You can also, if you've got a belt sander that's stationary, you can use one of those, and just be careful you don't rip up your hands with it. You can use this. This comes in handy. It's just a chunk of sandpaper, and you just do this, and you've got a nice sanded piece. You want to do these edges where you're going to glue them together, so make sure they're nice and sanded. You can round off the tips if you'd like, just so that they look good. But typically what I'll do with these is I'll get this sanded, get it nice and smooth, and then before I paint, I'll do another sanding on it, just to clean up edges and what have you once it's glued together. Then I have come up with this little, I don't know that I made it up, but I have these little chunks. It's just a 2x4 that I kind of cut lengthwise, made a nice hand-sized piece. If you want to get fancy, you can round off the edges, sand it down. I've written a type of sandpaper that's on it, and then I just cut a little piece and staple it on here. So now I have a little block sander that comes in handy for smaller pieces, something you can try. It's an easy way to keep things flat, and you don't have your finger marks in it if you're doing it like this and don't have grooves. Although things like this isn't fine furniture. This is just, it's a DIY kind of thing. So I'm not going to really film me sanding because you really don't need to see all of that. Everybody knows what it's like to sand. It's a pain in the butt. I have 6 of these I'm going to do. So after I get them sanded, I'll bring you back and show you me putting them all together, gluing them in place, getting them ready to go from that point forward. So here we go. Let's have fun sanding. Okay, so I've glued these two together already. So we have our little pine trees. They're sanded. They're smooth. There's a couple of, rough edges there. So I'll just hand sand that off here in a second. So there's our 2 trees. This is already sanded and cleaned up and ready to go. What I'll do next is I'm going to go ahead and glue these 2 pieces together right there. And then I'm going to glue this right on top, like so. And there will be our church. So let me go ahead and get this all set up and glued. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and use, I'm going to go ahead and just use this Quick and Thick from Titebond. So let's get this in here. And this stuff is a real thick glue, sticks really well. So I want to make sure I get that just like so. Get all my edges lined up like that. And I'm going to flip this over because this is uneven. So I'm not going to be able to put the steeple part on yet. I'm more interested in making sure that that's perfectly level and parallel with each other so that when I put this on, there isn't any wobbly. Now it's time to go ahead and start putting some paint on here. And we're not going to paint this solid. We're just going to do some dry brushing on here. So we're going to just get a little bit of paint on the end of the brush, and we're going to just lightly go across the top. We're just going to skim the top with our paintbrush, so you're not getting too much paint on this piece. So here we go. Again, just light, easy strokes. We just want it to look like this is a piece of wood that that was already pre-painted, and all you did is cut it and turned it into this little church. So we're going to go ahead and just do a lot of light wiping on here with our brush, and then we're going to do a little bit of green for the trees. And you don't worry if you get too much on here, because we're going to go ahead and do a light sanding at the end again, just to kind of smooth this all out, get the surface all nice and smooth, so the paint looks natural on here. So just go ahead and get all the sides with our green, and that is perfect. Looks good so far. So now I'm going to go ahead and put in a door. And again, you don't have to be perfect with this. This is just rustic looking. So if you're not perfect at this, it's no big deal. If you would rather use one of those little acrylic pens that you can get that it's a pen that has acrylic paint in it, go ahead and use that. It's a little easier to control. And I just want to make sure my windows are even with each other. And I'm going to go ahead and get those on there. So that looks great. And I also think I want to put a little bit of snow on the trees, just because these are for a show for the holiday season coming up for Christmas. So I want to make sure that we get that nice Christmassy look to it, that nice snowy look that we want on here. So I'm going to go ahead and get a little more on the edges there, and I think we are looking pretty good. I like this. Okay, everyone. This is dry. I'm going to go ahead and get some sandpaper out. I'll aim the camera down on this. We'll go ahead and get these edges sanded up some here so that we can kind of rough it out and make it look a little more antique or rustic. So let's go ahead and get started. So this part's really kind of fun. It's up to you how you do it. You just want to hit the edges. This is 150 grit sandpaper. That's all I'm using on here. And I'm just just making it look like it's worn on those edges. Like that's seen some time. people picking it up, hands touching it, all that stuff. And you're just gonna just randomly pick the corners, run this sandpaper over it. Again, 150 grit. If you want to go a little bit rougher, you can go ahead and set 80 on there. But I wouldn't go any higher than the 150. I don't think the 220 is going to do anything, or maybe 180 will hit it up for you pretty good. And that's really all there is to this. All we did is just kind of made a little bit more of that wood show through right there. It's not much. It's just enough to give it an old look. Now what I'm going to do is get my black paint out, and we're going to go ahead and put some shadows in around here. So here's our cross. Just cut that out. It's not very perfect, but that's okay. It's an old rustic church. So I'm going to go ahead and get some paint. No, I'm going to get some glue on here. And I'm going to stick it right where I want it, which is right in the center up at the top. All right, so there's the cross. So the cross could be any size you want. You know, this one's small. You can certainly do a much bigger one. You don't even have to put a cross on it if you don't want to. That's entirely up to you. So there's the cross. Now what I need to do is I'm going to go ahead and take my black paint and just put a little bit on the brush. And we're going to just put a shadow line right alongside this door. Just as smooth and as straight as we can do it. We want the door, that's not what we want to do. That was really bad. Look at that mess. See? Not everybody's perfect. And I never once said that I was, so. Okay, let's continue on now that I've messed the whole thing up, but I didn't. So we're going to go ahead and do the rest of this around the doorway. Just like so. We only want it on the one side because we only want it to look like a shadow on that side. We're going to do the same with the windows. And get this nice straight line, or as straight as you can get it. If you're not that steady with your hand, you can put down like tape on here, painter's tape, and cut it in this rounded shape up here. And then you can go ahead and just paint. And if you get it on the tape, it's okay, and just let it come off the edge. So we have that. I'm going to go ahead and put a door handle right there, just so it looks like a door handle. And then I'm going to go ahead and do this right in the center like this to show that we have crosses on the windows like so. And that is all that is needed for this. So this is pretty much done at this point. We'll let that dry. We'll put a coat of like polyurethane on here. And that's it. You want to make sure you sign it and give it away as gifts, sell it at craft shows. I do really good with these things. They sell really quickly. In doing this video, I've made 6. I've got a craft show coming up, and I believe that I'll probably sell all 6 of these. I'm quite sure of it. So everybody just loves these things. But we'll come back and we'll take a look at it with the polyurethane on it. So I think you can see here what I've done. I've roughed this up a little bit more. I'm going to have to re-add some of these lines that I did here because I sanded them. I just wanted these windows to be a little less bright. I've also added some shingles on here. I think it makes it look a little bit cleaner at this point. And now what I'm going to go ahead and do is I have some gold leaf paint, and I'm going to go ahead and paint that cross. Just because I don't know, I just think it will look, it will stand out really nice, getting it all painted and making it look, nice and gold like it should look, or like a lot of crosses look, is really what I should say. This gold leaf needs mixed up really, really good. One of the things I do a lot is I will buy a pack of electrical brushes from Amazon. These things are cheap. They're like pennies. You can get like a whole pack of 50 for a couple of dollars. Don't quote me on that. I can't remember. It's been a while because it's a big pack and I don't go through them quite a lot. They last a very long time. Nice thing about them is I can just throw them away when I'm done. So what I'll do is I will get this gold leaf paint, and I'm only going to do the top of this. I don't want to do the sides because I've already glued it down. If I was really wanting to do the sides, I'd probably paint the entire piece prior to gluing it on. But I only want the top. So there you go. Nice gold. Now, what I have left to do here is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a little bit more black in here. Take a little bit of gray around this to give it a shadow, and I'll show you this. I'll do this on camera. And I will do a light brushing of black on this, or maybe gray even, to give it the shingle look. And that'll complete that. Once it's dry, I don't think with this one I'm going to put the snow on it like a lot of them have. I'm just going to leave it as is. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the final coat of polyurethane. And actually what I use, it'll be polyacrylic, not polyurethane, because it's less, it doesn't smell as bad in this little garage that I've got here, my small space. I do have it ventilated, but still, it's nicer if you can get something without all the stink to it. So there's that. I'll be back here in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of gray right now. I just want to give just a little bit more of a shadow right up under here. This is a very, very watered down gray. Very, very much. You don't want it too dark. The other thing I want to do is I want to add, because I have shadows over here, the sun coming from this direction, and the doors and the windows are inset, I'm going to put just a little bit of a line here of some black to give us a shadow on the cross. Again, this doesn't need to be perfect. This is rustic. Just remember that. It's rustic. So, and if you want to make it a little better, please feel free. You do you. Whatever you need to do on yours, just do it. It's your piece. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of gray. Just dry brush of some gray on here to give the roof, the shingles, that look of something different. I just didn't want the plain wood showing, because there's no plain wood showing anywhere on this, so I don't want to show it on here. Also, what I'll need to do is do a little bit on the roof top itself. Now I did get some in here, which I don't want, so I'm just going to wipe that off. And then I'm going to go ahead and get some underneath here. Again, adding water to my color to thin it down so it's not a real thick mix and doesn't go on too heavy like almost that does. But the nice thing is if it does come on too heavy, once it's dry, we can just go in and add some sandpaper to it to rough it all up and remove some of it. Forgot to sand those, as you can see. So as far as I'm concerned, our painting is complete here. Now what we want to do is go ahead and get this, let it dry, maybe rough this up a little bit with some sandpaper. Like I said, you see, start playing around, and what happens, you mess it up. What's nice is it's rustic, so nobody's going to know. You can also see here, this is where that door, where I messed up on the door, doesn't even look bad at all. So there we have it. We have a completed rustic church. All that's left is to put the polyacrylic on here. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to use a matte polyacrylic just so that it doesn't, I don't think this does well with a gloss shine to it. So we'll go ahead and get that on. I'll show you the completed product very momentarily. And then I'll also show you, I've done 5 others of varying options to be putting on these. And you'll see what those are. There's so many things that you can do with these, and these sell very well at craft shows. So let me continue. I'll show you the final piece and we'll end this video. All right, we're done. Here we have our completed church. You can see that I do have the crosses finished. I did put on the roof on this, and then I've got there's the pine trees in there. So I do think that we look pretty good here, and this is going to be all ready for a craft show, ready to sell, and I'm positive this one's going to go. So thank you all so much for watching. I hope you do like and subscribe, comment, share, and I will see you next week. Go out and DIY.